but the question is, how can government modernise for change? And I think that's one of the key challenges that we're here to talk about that today. To help us talk a little bit about that, I want to welcome a speaker to the stage who's no stranger to our shores. She's lived the dream in terms of working in government, dealt with both the opportunities and challenges that a number of our government attendees today have faced. She was the former CIO for the US government's General Services Administration, and certainly has a well-informed perspective of that. So if I could ask you all to please join and welcome me, Casey Coleman, to the stage. Casey.
Thank you. Can you hear me okay? Well, good morning, everyone, and welcome to World Tour Sydney. We are so glad you could be here with us today. And we have an amazing track for the government segment, bigger and better than ever. And we're going to start off with a discussion about a big topic, modernizing for mission success that changes the world. Changing the world, that's a weighty issue, isn't it? It sounds big. But I really believe that this is why people are drawn to public service, for the opportunity to give back, to serve, to contribute to something bigger than ourselves. That's why I love working with the public sector. And I'm excited to talk about our trailblazing customers who are doing just that. We'll be making forward-looking statements today, so please make any buying decisions based on currently available products. We always start with thank you, because your success and your partnership is our success, and we never lose sight of that. But I also want to add a word of thanks to those of you in the room who are in public service. Thank you for what you do, and thank you for your support of the vital missions of the government that you make happen every single day. You have tough jobs, and we appreciate it. We are living in interesting times. We are in the fourth industrial revolution, the age of intelligence, when everything is rapidly becoming smart, connected, and personalized. Innovative companies, like those here on the floor, are orienting everything they do around the customer, and they are revising their business processes and data to serve that customer with a singular focus. For example, if you're a customer of Marriott Hotels, you can download their mobile app, use it to book a room, check into the hotel, open the hotel room door, and pay when you leave, and never waste a moment standing in line. If you like Coca-Cola, Coke has smart vending machines that report back when they're out of soda or running low, so that they can make smart decisions about when to replenish the stock. And you can buy that Coke with your mobile phone and never be without a soda. Now, you may ask yourself, why does this matter for the public sector? I mean, it's obvious why commercial companies are transforming themselves. They are in pursuit of customer loyalty, market share, profitability. That's really not what we're about in the public sector. And to be honest, our customers really don't have a choice. If you need a driver's license or a permit to open a small business, the government office is the only place to go. But I would argue that it's actually more important for the public sector to transform itself. And the reason is because all of the transformation happening around us is raising the bar on what we expect, not just from the commercial companies we do business with, but from the government as well. This is the new normal. This is the new standard. And for us to maintain the trust of those we serve, we need to respond in a way that meets that expectation. But we know it's not easy. Government organizations have been building IT systems for decades, and we have every technology ever created still in operation. Mainframes and green screens, client server, web apps, modern architectures, we have it all. And once those systems are built and running, we build regulatory schemes and organizational structures around them. And it's like concrete, almost impossible to change. And when you add to that the extra complications of the public sector, leadership changes that shift your priorities, a regulatory framework that makes it very hard, it hasn't moved at the pace of technology, long and complex procurements. All of this makes for a very tough situation when you're considering digital transformation. And the consequence is that there is a mismatch, an expectations mismatch between what public sector can deliver with all of the constraints that it has historically faced and what is expected based on this new normal. So you can see there's a gap between how the commercial firms are meeting our expectations and how public sector organizations have been able to do the same. But the good news is that there is a better way. It doesn't have to be limited like this. We know what success looks like. It starts at the core with a cloud platform that is secure and modern. It starts with a system of engagement that's intuitive and convenient and easy to use. And then it is future ready. In the past, the only way to modernize an IT system historically was to rip and replace. And I know personally from my days as a government CIO, that those efforts are often failures. But with Salesforce, you don't have to rip and replace anything. You can lay in a cloud platform on top of your existing systems, quickly begin to deliver new capabilities, meet expectations in a secure and modern way, and it's always updated so you're never stuck in the past. This is the Salesforce Customer Success Platform. 360-degree integrated set of capabilities to modernize all of your customer engagements. And maybe for you, they're not customers. Maybe they're constituents or residents or citizens. But you can transform your operations in the same way that Cathay Pacific and Telstra and the other amazing companies we'll hear about today. You'll hear much more about this in the keynote from Brett Taylor. So I hope you'll make the time and the opportunity to sit in the keynote and hear all about what we're doing with the Customer Success Platform. We have some amazing customers in the public sector who are doing just that. We'll hear about one trailblazing customer in just a moment. But in the public sector, we're not thinking about sales and marketing. What does it mean for us? What does it mean for you? The world's #1 CRM platform for government, here's what it means for the public sector. Automate case management. Accelerate app development. For example, the U.S. passenger rail system, Amtrak, has automated their app development on Salesforce, and they have created a workspace for each employee so that that employee has exactly the tools, the data, and the processes that they need on their mobile device or on their laptop. And so they don't waste time trying to figure out what to do. Their work comes to them. They don't have to go, the systems work for them. They don't work for the systems. Personalize outreach and engagement. Drive agency productivity and collaboration. Because recruiting and retaining employees and giving them the tools to do their best work is just as important as meeting the expectations of those you serve externally. Unify relationship management. See a 360-degree view of the customer. And deliver intuitive self-service portals. The U.S. Department of Agriculture has standardized on Salesforce for farmers.gov. There are over 2 million farmers, ranchers, and producers in the U.S., and the United States Department of Agriculture has dozens of programs to serve them. Conservation management, appropriate use of herbicide and pesticide, loans and crop insurance. And in the past, these were different programs with different offices and different rules and different points of contact. With farmers.gov, it's easy, it's simplified, it's all available in one place. We have many more customer stories like that, but now I want to double click into one trailblazer who is showing us the way for building trust, exceeding expectations, and leading the way on digital transformation. Please join me in welcoming back to the stage Glenn Rose and our guest, Stephen Haseman, from the Department of Foreign Affairs and Trade.
You're in the middle.
Middle?
Yep. Great. Now forgive us, we've got to put headphones on too.
All good?
I think we are. Is that working for you?
I can't hear you.
Yeah, I'm this far away. We should be able to hear each other.
Yeah. No. Anyone with this questions?
We'll get those.
All right.
So Stephen, let me kick off and firstly thank you for joining us and our customers today. I might start with just a little bit of background for the audience. Tell us a little bit about Department of Foreign Affairs and
Sure.
Trade and in particular your role as well.
All right. So our department really is responsible for representing Australia's interests overseas. Our aim is to really secure a stronger, safer Australia and also a more prosperous Australia. We do that through a number of means. We have an aid development program. We have passports program. We assist travellers overseas. There's also humanitarian crisis response. There's a lot of foreign policy that we developed that really has a direct impact on the prosperity that we enjoy today in this country. So that's what the department does. What my team does, we've purposefully split ourselves off into a future-looking team so that we don't get caught up into the day-to-day distractions, if you like, with the sole purpose of looking towards the future. So our role really, in summary, is to guide the investment in ICT capability that really complements or supports what the department's trying to do. If anyone has an interest in this area, there's a new paper out called the Foreign Policy White Paper. It actually is a defining statement about the challenges in our region and how our department needs to address those challenges. Our team, looking towards the future, is directly aligned to that. So we believe now we have a very strong alignment to what we need to do.
That's really good.
Yeah.
And if I think the change that you're going through, there was a starting point, and if you think back to where you were operationally, sort of maybe just give the audience a sense
Sure.
of where you were coming from before
Yep.
you sort of achieved where you are today.
So 2016, we recrafted a fresh strategy. The pressure point was on, there were three areas we wanted to concentrate on. Firstly, it was around business continuity and the idea that we needed to provide secure, reliable systems. We weren't at that stage yet where we had systems that people could count on. The second aim in that strategy was to improve our service delivery against the services that we already provide. The last 2 years have been all about that, and we've come out of that maturity curve into a point now where we're onto the third objective, which was to be far more agile and flexible for the needs of our customers. So in short, we had to learn how to be far more responsive. And that responsiveness is about departmental needs, but also importantly changes in needs. And we had to be able to pivot quite quickly to address changes. Not get too hung up on 12-month plans or portfolio project plans. It was really about being there and being responsive. So that's where we are now. So we're right at that point now where we're more future-looking than past-looking. We've learned a lot from the past, but we're actually contesting and challenging how we work. And more importantly, we're trying to change, or we are changing, the culture by which we treat our customer. And that's our customer's customer, if you like, our end user, citizen users, but also our internal customers that need to be empowered to get their job done.
Fantastic. So it sounds like it's a bit more of an agile approach in terms of responsiveness and not waiting for those multiple year programs.
Yeah, agile and not waiting to be asked. So agile in that our role is to get out across the department, and by the way, we support 50 partner agencies as well globally. It's quite a big, large, complex organisation. So there's 140 locations around the globe, around 6,000 staff, but there's also those 50 partner agencies that depend on us as well. Our principle is that we don't just sit there passively and wait to be asked. We search out where the requirements are, what are the patterns of demand, and we also search out what's happening in the industry against trends and proven technologies and marry the two together into a pipeline of innovation proposals. They're almost investment proposals, but not in the old school way. They're probably now with a proof of concept, tangible, something you can demonstrate to say, show what's possible. And then the actual writing against that's very brief. It's saying, here's an opportunity, it'll bring benefit, it'll address risk, but it's far more forward-leaning than waiting.
Stephen, your story has really resonated with me because when I was a customer and a government CIO, that business partnership and moving at the pace of the mission was a big challenge for us. And I saw Salesforce be able to help us with that. As you look at the journey so far, Has there been an inflection point or a turning point where you could see that things were coming together and now you could start to look a little bit more forward than back?
I think the turning point is we're fortunate to have, I'm fortunate to have managers above me that support the idea of being future looking. So we can choose to come to work and be tied up with day-to-day current issues. We've purposely separated ourselves off into another building. We've separated ourselves off into the day-to-day issues, and we've actually created space to think clearly about the future. The other element too, we've embraced industry partners. So we should never underestimate, I think, the amount of great thinking and solution offerings that happen in a partner ecosystem. And if you can learn to embrace that and learn from that, you multiply out your capabilities by a long way. Yeah.
Those are great observations, and along with the partnership and the innovative thinking and the separation from kind of the chaos of every day. What about change management, and what about user adoption? In my observation, sometimes those are the most difficult issues, because now the technology is so good that we need to consider the human side. It's just as critical.
Yeah, I agree. And it's not just about deployment, it's about adoption. And it's about, to us, the benefits are only realised through adoption. So at an individual level and also an organisational level, will those individual productivity gains start to roll up and aggregate. So I think it's about, there's two things in our mind. It's selecting carefully what are those opportunities. So we do have a model now where we select, we're not short on opportunities. We have a long list of candidate ideas, but we put them through a criteria where we look at the high value of that idea versus the risk of that idea. So we do a trade-off about, are things in place for success? So if we imagine a graph in the top quartile, you'll see something that's broad, high multiplier value against low risk, or everything's in place. They're the ones we go for. And the way we go for that, we actually, and as I said, we don't wait, we build something tangible, we show it off, we get it out there in front of our users that we think are switched on for change and have an appetite for change. And we start to elicit enthusiasm and feedback, and there's a momentum that happens that's quite special. You actually go beyond theory and words, you actually have a product in front of you, and you have people around you that just get this multiplier effect of feedback. And at some point you need to know when to let go. At some point you say 80% of the benefit, 20% of the effort, and we move on to the next investment. But a lot of it is just about investment and selecting carefully.
So your users and customers are part of the change. It's not happening to them. They're engaging and leaning into it with you.
So we need to get inside their motivation, and really the question you're asking is, why should they use this? And so if you can attack the sense that it's helping them in their day, it makes their working life easier, they're on board.
I love that. So as you think about the progress you've made so far, is there something that you would share with the audience as a practical tactic or a learning that you would share that might help everyone who's seeking to do the same and move along the same journey?
Yeah, I think for us, the lesson we've learned is lift the conversation up into an information layer, lift it up into an information and data, and lift it up to the point where you're saying, what information do these people need to do their jobs? And if you can get to that, you're beyond the silos of apps, you're beyond the silos of platforms, you're actually talking about seamless information flow across an organisation. So the rest will follow. The selection of applications, platforms, technologies will follow from that. So it's a deep understanding of the why, for an individual why. Why should I use this?
Sure.
Yeah.
So, Stephen, you've shared with me before, you've got I think a very pragmatic approach as to how you acquire technology as well. So there's some, I guess, a philosophy you have around the investments you make and how you spend both your money and resource in doing that. Do you want to share with the audience a little bit about that philosophy, particularly around how you approach that from a buy versus build perspective?
Yeah, sure. There's definitely a principle at play that is learn by doing. So I've been in IT a long time. You can be in meetings where people talk about theory and often we'll have people in the room that will give me reasons why something can't happen. If you can twist the conversation around and ask for reasons how it can happen, that's the first principle at play. But it's really just getting out and doing, and not be forward leaning, and don't just wait for those people to come to you and ask for things. And if you can demonstrate what's possible, I think that just creates enthusiasm.
I wanted to draw something out, which was something that stuck with me. Certainly was
okay,
you know where I'm going, don't you?
Yeah. Sorry, I should have picked up on that.
No, it was a really subtle hint. But what I was actually wanting to ask is, it's something that I hadn't actually heard it phrased the way you phrased it before.
Right.
But when you explained to me your approach to particularly acquiring the technology, I thought it was a really interesting one around also the collaboration with government. So just to share that.
So we have what we've done is our team really looks at two things: a deep understanding of what our customer needs at individual level and our organisational level, and in fact whole of government level. But the other side is to get out into industry and really engage with our service providers and our partners, and also get out to other organisations that have solved similar problems. So the principle at play there is, and particularly applies to government, there's a generosity across government that there is no in commercial imperative here, there is no competitive edge here. It's about better government at state, local or federal. So better government means that quite often you reach out to another organisation, you talk about the problems you're trying to solve, they will share those things with you and we'll share those things back. So they're in the form of solutions or lessons learned. But the principle at play, we have now a sequence of adoption methods by which borrow is the first principle, buy is the second principle, configure is the third, the last is build. We're not so much in the business of in-house, customised, bespoke apps anymore. We're looking for the 80-20 rule. So can we get a standardised app? Can we get a standardised product off the shelf, ready to go, deliver some incremental benefit and get better as we go along? So the borrow buy, but a lot of that's embracing the ecosystem around you.
And I think that's really important. I think as part of as we're growing in public sector and supporting customers, we're really keen to see that collaboration amongst customers as well. It's not just about a Salesforce delivered solution. It's actually about customers bringing their IP and sharing that. I think that's a huge part of the success that we're seeing, but that needs to continue to happen. Yeah. Probably as a last point, maybe stepping back from just Dept in general, but you've been part of the government organisations for a number of years, and you're quite an advocate for transformation in government. Is there a perspective you want to share maybe from a personal point of view around how you see transformation happening in government, what needs to happen in government around broader transformation?
Yeah, I think the thing it took me a long time to get used to is the notion of customer. I worked many years in the private sector and everything was wrapped around customer, and it had to be. It had to be just purely for commercial existence. But coming into government, I just think we need to remind each other that we still are a customer-focused organisation. We call them citizens, call them what you want, but there are people out there that need our government departments to operate effectively and efficiently, and they need to keep pace with what those citizens see in other organisations. So I think if it's anything, it's breaking the mould that just because you're in public service or just because you're in government does not mean you can't be innovative and forward-looking and create something new and fresh. And it's just a mindset, and that's the biggest challenge we have is culture. And how we treat our customers and how we treat each other. So that's probably it for me. It's not a technology issue. It's how we use the technology and how we treat our customer.
Fantastic. Yep. I appreciate that, Stephen. Okay. We've probably got, and we weren't necessarily planning for this, we've probably got about 2 minutes. So maybe I'm actually happy to do this to throw the audience if you might have a question or two that you might want to throw up. I know it's wasn't part of the plan, but does anyone have a question they'd like to ask Stephen, or even Casey for that matter? One question here. We do have some roving mics, I think, if we can. Awesome, thank you.
You were speaking about a whole of government perspectives. From an IT point of view, what are those for you?
Sorry, I just...
So the question was, talking about a whole of government perspectives and technology. From your perspective, what are those whole of government, I guess? Was it initiatives you're referring to? Yeah.
For IT in particular.
For IT in particular.
Yeah, we certainly we have an approach that we're calling platforms and patterns. So platforms and patterns is a way of thinking where we're observing common problems across government, and we do participate where we can to influence that. But I think the thing is, if we lift the conversation up into interoperability, the important thing is that government bodies can talk and communicate with each other, and so we've tried to lift the innovation agenda into an information agenda so that the technologies will be informed out of that. We do certainly see standardised gateway or publishing points of data between those, but not tending to talk about who's got which technology. So if you can manage to lift that conversation up into information exchange, I think it's a better approach.
Fantastic. Thanks, Stephen. Well, guys, I'm just conscious I checked my watch and we've only got about a minute to go. So let me just close by saying, firstly, thank you to Casey for coming down and being on our shores once again. Thank you to Stephen for sharing your insight and the personal journey and the DFAT journey. I think it's great. Today there is a government trail map that you can see, so if you're interested in certainly a government path, there's plenty of sessions to attend. We actually have just behind us right here is the Salesforce for Government booth, so if you want to head over, and the team will be over there anxiously waiting to ask or answer, or ask you questions too, but answer many of your questions, so you're welcome to join them. We have our keynote, which Casey mentioned before, at 10 o'clock upstairs on level 4. But from all of us, just wanted to say thank you again for making the journey to World Tour. We hope you have an informative day. Please make sure you go out and talk to as many customers and colleagues, and as well as Salesforce people as you can, to share in your learning. So thank you again for the team, and have a wonderful day.
Thank you.